Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball series, Rescue the Rockies. And this is a very special episode number 200 of this Rescue the Rockies series. There were times I wasn't sure whether or not we were going to get here with this year's team in the OOTP 26 series that is now in its later stages, but appreciate all of the support from our viewers and the worldwide scouting department over closing in on a year at this point. It's ultimately been an interesting trip, and if you're still watching us, hope you enjoyed it. Last episode, we completed spring training, and before that we made our IAFA signings, had some good advice from the worldwide scouting department on the approach there. And I think it worked out reasonably well, so thank you to all for your thoughts. Before we get started with this 2043 season, I just wanted to check in on a couple of things, including some comments made by the Worldwide Scouting Department. We're not in the best position as far as injuries. Our longtime outstanding reliever, Chris Kennedy, is going to miss the next 3.5-4 months. Although, to be fair, when he got injured late last year, we thought he was going to miss this entire season, so his recovery has actually been going fairly smoothly. And depending on what he looks like on the other side of that injury, might get a nice boost for our bullpen coming out of the All-Star break. And unfortunately, we have similar timing for our franchise icon, Kevin Roberts Jr. A real bummer that the veteran is going to miss the first half plus of the season in the first year of that big 6-year extension that we signed him to. But it is what it is at this point. We have those injuries and just have to deal with it at this point. NS1, CLRK, and Ravenspawn 3, among others, lamenting the loss of Kevin Roberts, which I completely agree with. Did note in a reply to a comment to the last episode from NS1 CLRK that Roberts Jr.'s career and Leo Martinez's career are incredibly similar thus far and as franchise icons, even though it might not be optimal in terms of maximizing exactly what we accomplish on the field in this series. There's no way we're going to let either of them go. So we'll probably be overpaying a perhaps broken down Roberts through his mid to late 30s. But happy to do that with what he's accomplished. He joined us as a September call-up in 2030. He's put up a 70.5 WAR over the course of his career thus far. Member of all 7 of our World Championship teams. 3-time MVP, 11-time All-Star, and a 10-time playoff series MVP. And it's really crazy at a high level how similar the careers of Martinez and Kevin Roberts Jr. are. Kevin Roberts Jr., as we noted, joined us as a September call-up in 2030. Leo Martinez came up before the All-Star break in 2031. And he has had an incredible run with us as well, putting up a 68.9 career WAR, almost exactly the same as Roberts after all these seasons. And Martinez, like Roberts, 7-time championship winner, 11-time All-Star, and he's a 3-time Cy Young Award winner in contrast to the 3 MVP awards that KR Jr. has put up. Martinez, at this point, we've still got team options at very reasonable levels for another couple of years. With the way his ratings are slowly but surely contracting, particularly with his pitch quality, I think his stuff could be below average relatively soon. So I don't know that his extension is going to be quite expensive in a few years as Kevin Roberts Jr.'s, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. And we also got some thoughts from Ravenspawn 3 and Noglegs on potentially having Makoto Hirota and Ray Salas in the rotation rather than the likes of Mike Witherspoon and possibly Kyle Campos. And on paper, I definitely agree that that's the right move. Ultimately, wasn't going to let a veteran like Campos or a veteran at this point, even though he's only 26 years old. He's been a full-time major leaguer for over 3 years, like Witherspoon, after good spring trainings, lose their spots in the rotation to rookies until these guys prove that they're not as good as the rookies. I know that's not optimizing the numbers in OOTP, which is what it's technically about, or if not technically about that, at least that's what makes things most efficient. But we're going to make the rookies earn their spots. Hirota is a scouting discovery who's ended up becoming a potentially outstanding pitcher for us, even though we don't love the low adaptability and baseball IQ. And then Salas, 17th round pick, who when we look at his scouting history, when we picked him up back in the 2036 draft, thought he was kind of a 2040 player, and he has been fantastic in terms of development. As Noglegs noted, he added the splitter to his repertoire just weeks ago. He's a 55 when we put him back into the starting pitcher role, but still Hirota and Salas will eventually get their shots through ineffectiveness of Campos and Witherspoon and or injuries elsewhere in the rotation. And we plan to hopefully build around those guys for the foreseeable future, already sniffing around potential extensions. Doesn't look like there's a bargain to be had with either right now, unfortunately, but that can certainly change, so we'll keep our eyes on that. One other thing, Witherspoon, with the fact that Kevin Roberts Jr. is injured, is the only captain personality we have in either our everyday players or our position players at this point. So getting him that regular work as a member of the starting rotation is not necessarily the worst thing from that perspective. Ultimately, if he's a disaster in the rotation, which is not inconceivable, we'll pull him out for Hirota or Salas. But we're going to make the veterans prove that they've lost it, or the rookies prove that they're just too good against real major league action before we give them the shots in the rotation. And we'll take a quick look at our prospective schedule for this month of April. Start off home against the Marlins, and then we jump right into a series on the road against San Diego at the team we have been battling for the National League West for the last few seasons. Also have a series in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. Won't be facing the Giants this month, however. And in broader fictional MLB news, in this universe, Hal Steinbrenner, owner of the Yankees, passed away here in April of 2043. We're off to a 3-2 start, split the first 2 games against San Diego. Hopefully we can take the series 2-1 today. And in the very early going of this season, off to a solid 7-4 start, and we're crushing the Padres, who are 3-8 at this point. The issue is we're tied with the Dodgers and the Giants. Congratulations, Peter Hooper, are off to a 10-1 start. They've won 10 in a row after losing on opening day. In the very, very early going, Castro tied for the league lead in steals. Alex Gomez just a little bit behind him. Leo Martinez, 19 strikeouts, and Jesse Hoffmeister tied for the league lead in pitcher WAR in the way too early review of the statistics here in the National League. And all things considered, a really great start to the season for our Colorado Rockies. Our 16-5 record is the Second best record in all of baseball. Now, the only negative is that we're a game behind the San Francisco Giants in our own division. But given that we essentially did nothing this past off season, no major league free agents were signed. We did sign a few guys to minor league contracts who are in Double A and Triple A. And really, the only trade we made was for a catcher who we ended up waiving and DFAing. He did make it to AAA for us as nobody else picked him up, which probably says all you need to know about our offseason. So we were committed to the youth movement just based on the lack of interesting free agent options, economical free agent options, and anything material emerging in the trade market. And so far, it's gone really well. Castro tied for the league lead in steals, or tied for second in the league in steals with 8. Also second in the league in batter war. Pitching-wise, Leo Martinez and Jesse Hoffmeister 1-2 in strikeouts, and Leo 2-3 in strikeouts. Boy, I'm getting all of these numbers wrong here today. Pitcher war, Leo Martinez tied for second at a 1. Some really good news for one of our rookies, and it's not the pitcher. It's Tom McNeil, the young left fielder who's basically on the roster and playing every day, primarily because of that Kevin Roberts Jr. injury. Your National League Rookie of the Month hit .319 with 4 homers and 14 ribbies and 72 at-bats. Also hit 6 doubles, almost half a win above replacement with a 151 WRC+. So Mr. McNeil, the most prominent of the rookies on our team, although as we noted, Luis Escobar, this is his first full-time shot in the majors. You can see he hasn't done much, hitting just 1 for 13. He's only starting against left-handed pitchers, even though he's on the roster. So hopefully he'll get more of an opportunity and do more with it going forward. If you're wondering about the young pitchers, Hirota with a 3.52 ERA over 7 2/3 innings. Salas with a 5.79 ERA over 9 1/3 innings. Witherspoon 3-0, doing well as our second lefty in the rotation. But Kyle Campos potentially maybe leaving an opportunity for us to make a move to one of the youngsters with a 7 ERA over just 18 innings pitched in his first 4 starts. Campos' stamina is also down to a 40. So when you look at Hirota with his 65 stamina and Salas with his 70 stamina, could definitely see us considering to pivot to one of the youngsters in the not-too-distant future. Other than that, everyone in the starting rotation and everyone in the bullpen is performing extremely well. Early look at our team statistics, and we are first in the National League in runs allowed and first, second, third, fourth, or fifth in every pitching category, have the best defensive efficiency in the game, first in the league in runs scored. Offense has been incredible as well, and good on the base paths. 16-5 record, right in line with Pythagorean expectations. So a really good start for the Rockies, given it was a relatively quiet offseason. And the month of May off to a good start as well. 6-3 record through the first 10 days of the month. Importantly, we swept the Giants on the road. So as we sit here on May 11th, we're game and a half above the Giants. The Padres, after that rough start, not surprisingly, are coming back in the standings. We've got the best record in baseball, but it is the very early going, of course. And we've started working on scouting for the draft. Have some work to do since we hired a new scout back at the end of last season. You can see we've got the top prospects up to very high scouting accuracy, but still have some work to do with the lesser prospects. We do have that neutral scout, which is new for us here in the last several years of out-of-the-park baseball. Probably just a quirk of the pool, but the number of catchers among the top prospects in this rookie draft seem insane, with 7 catchers who have 70 plus potential out of about 15 players, 20 players on that list. Don't think it's necessarily that a neutral scout will have some type of bias towards catchers. I think it's almost certainly just a quirk of the pool, but if we're looking for a catcher, this might be the year where we can pick one up in the draft. And unfortunately, our starting third baseman, Alex Gomez, just went down with an injury. So we've brought up the youngster Steve Wheats. Wheats will play third base for us against left-handed pitching. John Jefferson will become our third baseman against right-handed pitching. He's a guy who's had many opportunities over the last few years, hasn't necessarily made the most of them, but he is hitting .323 in the early going this season, playing primarily against left-handed pitching. But we'll give Jefferson some more regular playing time going forward and see what he can do with that. And as we've talked about in the past, we've got a lot of potential free agents, particularly on our pitching staff this upcoming off season. No one's looking for money that makes me want to rush to get them signed right now. Jesse Hoffmeister, not surprisingly, looking for the most money, almost $39 million a year over 7 years. Given that he's going to be 30 before the end of the season and he's fragile physically, doesn't seem like we lock him up unnecessarily until the last minute. The left-hander, Jason McKinney, the reliever, looking for $26 million a year over 6 years. Another guy who's going to be 30 shortly. He's been an outstanding reliever for us and expect him to remain an outstanding reliever going forward, but that kind of money is probably not a price we're willing to pay. We'll likely be moving on from Kyle Campos, given that we do have those good young starters behind him. He's looking for $9 million a year for 2 years, so the money not bad. Campos 2-4 with a 5.40 ERA, so I guess that means he's been pitching a little better of late, but has basically been replacement level. Probably will give him another start or two if things don't improve materially. That could be the opening that Hirota or Salas is looking for, and Hirota continues to pitch better than Salas, so he'd probably get the first look. Melvin Reyes, another reliever, set to become a free agent, set to turn 30 in relatively short order, looking for over $20 million a year for 5 years. And then Chris Kennedy, who's still recovering from that ruptured UCL, a couple months away. His demand right now is a 1-year deal for over $21 million. So keeping an eye on things and considering trying to sign some of the youngsters to extensions, but right now there's nothing that's jumping out as a bargain or even something we need to do now. And the season continues to go reasonably well. 28-14 record, tied for the best record in baseball with the A's, although we haven't been playing as well of late. 2-game lead on the Padres, 2.5 up on the Giants. The rookie Tom McNeil tied for second in the league with a .331 average. Chris Kuhn is second in ribbies. Eric Mokeen now leading the league in steals. And Mike Castro leading the league in batter war, or more accurately tied with Alan Verhoff. So in the absence of Kevin Roberts Jr., we've had a lot of guys stepping up. Jason McKinney, the reliever, has 6 wins right now, tied for the league lead. Hoffmeister and Martinez are first and third respectively in strikeouts, and Leo Martinez third in the league in batter war. Unfortunately, the injury situation for us is getting very dangerous. Roberto Ramirez going to miss 5 weeks. Carlos Bear Barrel Davila going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with a hip strain, and we're now waiting on a diagnosis pending from John Jefferson and backup catcher Elliot Bedford. So, going to be testing the depth of our organization in the coming weeks because both Kennedy and Roberts still a couple months away, and we're a month away from Gomez as well. So the injuries are starting to take their toll on our Rockies here in 2043. So Bear Barrel Davila and Roberto Ramirez go to the IL. Gives an opportunity for some of the final cuts from our 26-man roster to play. We already had Steve Wheats up. We've now brought up Nick Dyer, who was a late cut as well. He hadn't played above AAA, but he did hit 289 and 149 AAA at-bats coming out of this spring. So he'll give us some initial depth in the infield with Davia gone. Also brought up Tomas Pena, who's going to go into a long relief role for us. We're going to move Makoto Hirota into a middle relief role now. Still considering moving him into the bullpen. Obviously, we'll wait and find out what happens with John Jefferson and Elliot Bedford. And Johnny Castillo also dealing with a mild hammy strain for the next couple of weeks. Always a dangerous situation, but given that we're already missing our starting third baseman. Actually, Gomez has been our starting second baseman most of this year over Castillo, but we pivoted Castillo back to second base. But we're missing two critical infielders who are starters as well, and we could be missing a third shortly with John Jefferson. I think we kind of need to just have Johnny Castillo try to play through that hammy injury, which is always a risky proposition. And Elliot Bedford diagnosed with a broken kneecap, so his season is likely over, going to miss 4 to 5 months. He did hit better for us this year, 283 average with 4 homers and 7 ribbies and 46 at-bats, playing primarily against left-handed pitching, so kind of became the platoon guy that we hoped he would. But unfortunately for Mr. Bedford, his season is likely over. And we're going to bypass Gartman, the guy that we traded for last offseason as an insurance catcher, given that we did sneak him into AAA when no one picked him up after we had to waive and DFA him. We're going to give a shot right now to Adrian McCallum, 26-year-old former 11th round draft pick out of VCU, hitting 291 in AAA for us this year. Competent defensively, right-handed hitter who we think can not be embarrassing potentially against left-handed pitching. We'll see what he can do. Obviously, we've got options if he ends up being a disaster. And it took a while to diagnose, but another significant injury for our infield. John Jefferson, torn meniscus, going to be out for 4 months, so perhaps he'll be ready come playoff time if we make the playoffs. As we talked about, Jefferson, who's been up and down between the majors and minors the last couple years, had been making a good showing in his opportunity this year, hitting 349 and 86 at-bats with 5 homers, 12 ribbies, 162 WRC plus, a WAR of close to 1. So small victory for the youth movement with the way Jefferson has performed, but he has been fragile and has had injuries in the past, so perhaps should not be surprised that he ends up missing most of this year on the IL, and our organizational depth is definitely being tested at this point. And as I noted, our depth is definitely being tested. We have Gamez, Jefferson, Davia among the infielders on the IL right now. And as we talked about, Johnny Castillo still trying to fight through that hamstring strain. Roberts Jr. and Bedford out. And among the relievers, Chris Kennedy and Roberto Ramirez. So some pretty significant injuries for us, unfortunately, in the relatively early going of this season. Gives us the opportunity for another youngster, though, Nils Mensch, the former IAFA signing from back in 2036. 24-year-old, has only played 49 games above AA, but did hit 311 in AAA this year. Not quite ready for the majors, but with the injuries we're having, he's going to get his opportunity. And we were holding our breath with an injury pending for Jesse Hoffmeister. Fortunately, it's only a finger blister that's going to impact him for a couple of days, so he should be ready to make his next start. But goes to show why we aren't necessarily going to be rushing out to give him $38, $39 million a year until we see him get through this season healthy. And as anticipated, Johnny Castillo suffered a setback in his recovery from that hamstring. Probably will continue trying to have him just play through it just because we are so short on infielders. Maybe we'll move him to a DH role, see if that's doable with the youngsters that we have brought up, but feel it's important to keep that bat in the lineup. He's our cleanup hitter in the absence of Kevin Roberts Jr. Hitting only .248, does have 9 homers and 25 ribbies, but he's been below average offensively this year. Definitely a guy who has regressed from what we thought he was after the first few seasons of his career. Signed him to a big extension, so we're stuck with Castillo and hoping that he can work through this injury and kind of work through the unfortunate regression that seems to be happening to him in his late 20s. And we have moved Castillo to first base against righties and DH against lefties to try to limit his wear and tear as we head into the final day of the month of May. 33-15, 3 games up on the Padres in the division. Kuhn, Mokeen, and Castro continue to be prominent on the batting leaderboards. McKinney, Hoffmeister, and Martinez remain prominent on the pitching leaderboards, although we would assume the reliever McKinney will eventually fall off from potentially leading the league in wins. And with that great performance out of the bullpen, the reliever, Jason McKinney, named your National League Pitcher of the Month. 2 saves and a 5-0 record in 17 relief appearances, 0.81 ERA over 22 1/3 innings. So he is a high-volume reliever for us at this point. He's also our stopper with the fact that we've lost Kennedy, and 7-0 now with a 0.80 ERA this season, 32 strikeouts and 33 2/3 innings. So set to pitch close to or perhaps even over 100 innings this year. 34-15 record for our Rockies, so we've extended the lead over the Padres in the NL West to 4 games. And we do have the best record in baseball here on June 1st. Quick look at the team statistics. The offense remains solid, 5th in the National League in runs scored, but not as glowing as we were a month ago in terms of the ratings. But given the number of key offensive players we've lost, perhaps that should not be a surprise. The pitching still outstanding, 1st in the National League in runs allowed, and as you can see here, 1st in most pitching categories, remain 1st in defensive efficiency and zone rating, and we're 3rd in steals and base running. Our 34-15 record, right in line with expectations. Strong 18-10 record in May after that awesome 16-5 record in the month of April. And as we head towards the midway point of the season here in June, still have 2 games left against San Diego as we try to win the series against our division rivals. We'll also have a series at home against the Dodgers and at home against our division rival Giants here in the month of June. And as we sim through mid-June, finally making some progress with the injuries. Alex Gomez healthy, so we've sent Nils Mensch back down to AAA. Gomez hopefully can give us a little bit of a boost in the lineup. A few days away from the return of Roberto Ramirez, which is fine. Still a month away from both Chris Kennedy and Kevin Roberts Jr., and unfortunately, Bear Barrel Devia's hip strain now has an unknown recovery time. So hopefully we'll have him back in a few weeks, but it's uncertain right now. Taking a quick look at what's going on in the standings, we've got a 4-game lead over the Padres in the division, and we do have the best record in baseball right now by one game over both the A's and the Red Sox. So the season going well, particularly all the injuries and the lack of any real substantive changes to our roster this offseason. Chris Kuhn tied for second in the league in ribbies. Mike Castro doing a great job filling in for Kevin Roberts Jr., leading the league in batter war. McKinney tied for second in wins. Hoffmeister leading the league in strikeouts. And Eric Schweitzer is now third in the National League with 17 saves as we head towards July. And with a little over a week to go here in the month of June, still have a 4-game lead in the division. We ended up splitting the 2 games in June with the Padres, but took that series 2 out of 3. Unfortunately, after winning the first game against the Dodgers, we lost 2 out of 3 at home against them. Have the series against the Giants coming up at this point. They've slipped to 6.5 behind us now. As I noted, we're still up 4 on the Padres, so hopefully we can continue to put a little distance between ourselves and the other teams in the division. Ramirez is ready to come back off of the IL, so good to have him back, and we're using his return as an excuse to change up the pitching staff. You can see both Witherspoon and Campos had pitched their way to ERAs of over 5 over the first 2.5 months of the season. So we're pulling both of them out of the rotation at this point, and we're going to turn things over to the youngsters. Makoto Hirota is going to get a shot as our 4th starter, and Ray Salas will get a shot going forward as our 5th starter. Those two are combined 6-0 this year, working out of the bullpen. Salas 5-0 in 34 2/3 innings with a 4.15 ERA. Hirota 1-0 with a 2.82 ERA over 22 1/3 innings. And the future is now for a couple of our prominent prospects. And we took 2 out of 3 against the Giants, which is good news. The much more important good news, though, Carlos Davila recovered from that injury, so we will have our starting shortstop and number 2 hitter back starting tomorrow, which hopefully will help us continue to move this offense and this team in a better direction. Been a tough stretch here through May into most of June with the injuries. Hopefully this is a sign that we are turning things around a little bit, potentially 3 weeks away from Kennedy and Roberts Jr. at this point. So should be, if all goes well, getting those guys back right around the All-Star break. With the amount of time that they've missed, they'll certainly probably both need a little bit of rehab time in AAA before we bring them up to the majors. And we're on to the month of July, probably just a few days away from getting our mid-season report card from ownership. 48-29 record, still have that 4-game lead on the Padres. We have gotten passed by the Las Vegas Athletics for the best record in baseball. They've won 5 in a row. Mike Castro, perhaps making an MVP case in a nice bounce-back year for him, leading the National League in batter war, help filling the gap caused by the injury to Kevin Roberts Jr. and others. Jesse Hoffmeister and Leo Martinez 1st and 3rd in the league in strikeouts, and Leo Martinez tied for 2nd in pitcher war as we sit here on July 1st. Good news on one of our rookies as well, Ray Salas, who, as you know, we recently moved into the rotation. Had a 4-0 record with a 2.60 ERA and 30 strikeouts in 27 2/3 innings. National League Rookie of the Month. As you know, that's our 2nd National League Rookie of the Month at this point, behind Mr. McNeil, who got off to that great start in the month of April. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a Rookie of the Month from Hirota going forward and complete the trifecta here in 2043. And while we're getting a little healthier, Nick Dyer, the youngster who was up with us when we had some injuries going on the IL with some chronic back soreness, that means that we've called Steve Wheats back up to the major league team as a utility infielder for us. Leo Martinez dealing with back spasms, minimal impact for the next 3 days, so we're going to ensure that he doesn't pitch until he's gotten over that. Otherwise, though, things tracking reasonably well. Should have Kennedy and Kevin Roberts Jr. back by right around the All-Star break if things go well with their continued recoveries. And we've finally gotten this mid-season report card, so in this big 200th episode, we will finish things off with our mid-season review, start thinking about what we might need to do in the trade market to get this team back into the playoffs and hopefully have a long postseason run. 51-31 record, still in first place in the NL West. Ownership pleased with our good work there. Not pleased that we haven't extended Bear Barrel Davia yet. Chris Kuhn is a nice addition, but still want somebody better fielding. And our farm system continues to struggle, particularly with the fact that a couple of those young pitchers, Salas and Hirota, are no longer considered prospects. Full standings here as of July 6th. As I noted, 51-31 records, still 4 up on the Padres. That's kind of been where we've been compared to them for the last month or so. Mike Castro still leading the league in batter war. Jesse Hoffmeister leading the league in strikeouts. And Leo Martinez tied for second in pitcher war. Quick look at the team statistics before we get into the individual performances. Our 51-31 record is dropped to 4 below Pythagorean expectations. Only went 14-14 in that month of June. Hopefully, now that we're on the other side of many of those injuries, that'll improve. 3-2 in the early going here in July. Tied for third in the NL in runs scored, and we're in the first half of the league in all of the hitting categories except for strikeouts, where we're ninth. Still third in the league in the base running categories, still first in the league in the defensive categories, and our pitching staff remains dominant, first in the league in runs allowed, and first in most of the primary pitching categories. Our worst positions are 6th in walks and 5th in strikeouts. So the pitching remains a big strength. And some other good news in addition to the mid-season review of goals. Kevin Roberts Jr. Could be about 100% in 4 days. We're hoping we'd have him back by the All-Star break, but odds are, even with a rehab assignment, we could get him back for a couple of games before the Midsummer Classic. So really good news for our lineup. Hopefully KR Jr. looks similar to the way that he's looked in the past, although with this latest scouting report, certainly seems like his contact and his power are beginning to regress a bit, which, as a guy who's going to be 35 in 3 weeks, we would expect. Still think he will, with his eye and ability to hit home runs, particularly against left-handed pitching, remain a very important part of our lineup for this year and hopefully for many years to come as he finishes up his career in Colorado, if we've got anything to say about it. We'll start off our mid-season review taking a look at the pitching staff. Leo Martinez, as we know, is high in the league with a 3-pitcher WAR, 6-4 record with a 2.99 ERA, his lowest ERA in several years, on pace to once again pitch over 200 innings and probably be among the league leaders in that category. Only 7 home runs allowed, 106 strikeouts, 151 ERA plus, 74 FIP minus. The 33-year-old remains an outstanding player for us. Speaking of outstanding players, Jesse Hoffmeister, 5-2 with a 2.82 ERA, 129 strikeouts, 2.4 WAR, 161 ERA plus, and a 76 FIP minus. Those two are a fantastic 1-2 punch. And back from an injury that cost him all of last year, the left-hander Bob Russell gives us a great 1-2-3. He's 6-5 with a 3.38 earned run average, 1.34 ERA plus, 87 FIP minus, and a 1.9 WAR from the veteran. He is in a position where we've got a team option for him next year. Conceivable that we may move on from him, given the number of pitchers, as we talked about, where we need to think about extending them. Hoffmeister still looking for that $38-39 million a year deal over 7 years. Given his fragility, not going to rush things. And then the youngsters are undefeated on the season. Makoto Hirota has now started 2 of the 14 games he's pitched in, 3-0 record with a 2.94 ERA. He's basically been replacement level over the year. His SIERA significantly above his ERA. His FIP minus is also high. So hopefully he'll get better over the second half of the year, but certainly not embarrassing himself. And Ray Salas, definitely not embarrassing himself either. He's now started 3 of his 17 games, 6-0 record with a 3.79 ERA, almost a win above replacement, 120 ERA plus, 84 FIP minus, 287 SIERA. Feeling really good about the rotation at this point. Eric Schweitzer, 22 saves on the season, 1.41 ERA. Has not allowed an inherited runner to score this season. So a 0% inherited runner scored rate, which can't do any better than that. Almost a win above replacement for the 27-year-old closer out of Germany. Jason McKinney has been in that high-volume setup/stopper role for us. 2.22 ERA over 56 2/3 innings, 1.6 WAR on the year. Still looking for big money though. Demand still $26 million a year over 5 years. Josh Joss having another solid year for us as a setup man. 333 earned run average, a 111 WHIP over 24 1/3 innings pitched, 0.7 WAR. Has allowed more inherited runners to score this year than in the past, which is not ideal. But looking at his ratings, still expect Dandy Joss to pitch well for us. With Ramirez officially back from that injury, we're going to put him back into more of a traditional setup role as well. And he can also do some specialist work for us if needed. Ramirez on the year, a minuscule 0.44 ERA over 20 2/3 innings pitched. Almost a win above replacement, a ridiculous 10.40 ERA plus and 34 FIP minus. Has not allowed a home run and has struck out 26 while walking 7 over 20 2/3 innings. So obviously good to have him back. Ryan Harville, after really struggling in the early stages of his career, cup of coffee in 2041, and then he split last year between AAA and the majors. Only allowed 1 base runner per inning this year, 129 ERA. Interesting, also a .129 batting average against him. Would expect that he's gotten somewhat lucky with that minuscule 190 BABIP. As expected, given those numbers, his SIERA materially higher than his ERA, but he's still been an above replacement level pitcher for us, doing a nice job as a middle reliever. And Melvin Reyes with a ERA of under 1 in 27 2/3 innings pitched, 0.6 WAR. Another guy who just has a ridiculous 106 batting average against, 140 BABIP against. Would expect some regression towards the mean for some of these pitchers with ridiculous statistics here in the first half of the year. But still really like our bullpen overall. Mike Witherspoon, who has, recently moved to the bullpen, 6-2 record, but the ERA is over 5. He's basically been a replacement level player. Looking at his ratings now, the former first-round pick, a usable major league arm, but definitely not someone we're planning to build around for the long term. And Kyle Campos, as we talked about, set to be a free agent. He's 4-7 this year with a 4.73 ERA. Has been a bit above replacement, although not as good as he was for us in his first year in Colorado last season. Certainly would expect, if the pitching staff remains healthy, that Hirota and Salas will be our 4 and 5 starters for the rest of the year, as they definitely seem to have supplanted Witherspoon and Campos and are certainly both bigger parts of our future, even though right now their demands remain relatively high for an extension, so we probably just let them play through their minimum salary and arbitration years over the next 5-6 seasons before thinking about doing something more significant. So you always feel like you can use another arm, but with Chris Kennedy coming back in a matter of weeks, hopefully at this point, not sure that we need to do with Kennedy on his way back and a pitching staff that is easily the best in the National League so far, any heavy lifting as far as our rotation or our bullpen ahead of the trade deadline. Probably more for us to think about as far as our position players, though. Alex Arellano, in his second year with us, has been better than his first year with us, hitting .236, 8 homers, 35 ribbies. Basically been close to a league average offensive player as our catcher against right-handed pitching. Put up a 1.1 WAR. That arm is still not good behind the plate, but really good at blocking, above average at framing, and a good, solid catcher for us. Don't know that we bring him back as a free agent next year, even though catcher has become an issue for us. But with the demand a little less than $10 million, it's possible, if the market for catchers remains uninspiring, that he could be back with us next year. Adrian McCallum has taken over, getting the opportunity to play for us at catcher against left-handed pitching with that injury to Elliott Bedford. Hitting .239 in his first 46 major league at-bats, does have 1 home run, has been slightly above replacement level, so he's holding his own. Certainly could upgrade the catcher position. Not sure whether or not there will be opportunities there, but it's something we'll be investigating over the next 3.5 weeks or so. Mario Manriquez, once again, by default of being a left-handed hitter, has gotten an opportunity to be our pretty much everyday first baseman against right-handed pitching this year. And once again, he hasn't really impressed. The former second-round pick hitting .221, 5 homers and 30 ribbies and 262 at-bats. He's been below replacement level. Once we're healthier, with guys like Roberts Jr. coming back, Manriquez's job could be in jeopardy. Would also think that can always seem to find a first baseman in the trade market. That might be an area for us to rent somebody to give the offense a boost the second half of the year. Ted Slade has been a platoon player essentially with Manriquez, although Slade typically in the lineup against lefties as a designated hitter. 243 average with 6 homers and 18 ribbies over 111 at-bats, 94 WRC plus, just barely better than replacement level. Still has great ability to hit the ball far against left-handed pitching, but not someone that we're going to be building around for the long term. Alex Gamez, back from that injury, 243 average with 3 homers and 19 ribbies and 169 at-bats. 0.7 WAR, so he's been a useful player for us, but not great offensively. The hope is that he can remain healthy over the remainder of the year and hopefully hit a little bit better. Johnny Castillo, who's found himself in the cleanup slot this year with the injury to Kevin Roberts Jr., has struggled a bit. 243 average, does have 13 homers and 42 ribbies, but only an 82 WRC plus, just half a win above replacement. Scouting on him has been a steady downtrend, unfortunately, since we signed him to that extension. Still a useful major league player, and we do like that power, which over the course of his career has tied for the league lead in homers twice in his first 3 seasons, was over 100 ribbies in each of those first 3 seasons, but those have proven to be a bit of a mirage as he's settled in as a 240, 250 kind of hitter with good but not incredible power, and he's typically been around the league average offensive player the last few years. Still has 4.5 years to go on that contract. Positively, we did make it front-loaded, and there's no guarantees as far as a trade, but still hoping that Castillo can be as effective in the future as he was in the past, although with the way his ratings are trending according to our scout and his performance has been trending, that's probably a bit of a hope trade. Carlos Bear Barrel Davila back from the injury. He's having a down year after he really exploded onto the scene last season in his third season in the majors, was an MVP candidate, put up a great 7.6 WAR. Batting average down to 231 this year, only 4 home runs and 13 ribbies in 44 games played. He remains an enigma on the base paths, very inefficient at stealing bases over the course of his career. The OPS was close to 900 a year ago, barely over 700 this year. 85 WRC plus 1.1 WAR. Looking at his ratings and his speed, would expect a better second half of the season than his first half. That 271 BABIP does seem artificially low, so hopefully Bear Barrel will be better second half of the year. Steve Wheats still on the roster, the second round pick from 2040, getting an opportunity with all the injuries we've had in the infield. Only hitting a .170 in his first 106 major league at-bats, however, 63 WRC plus. He's been below replacement level. Certainly could see when the injury situation is a little bit better and Nick Dyer is healthy, Wheats perhaps heading back down to the minor leagues. Not expecting John Jefferson anytime soon, but it is very conceivable that Jefferson could be healthy for the playoffs. And last but not least, we will take a look at our outfielders. Luis Escobar, the former first-round pick, the injuries that we had, especially to Kevin Roberts Jr., helped him make the roster out of spring training. Unfortunately, not going well for him. 184 batting average in 103 at-bats, 6 doubles, 3 homers, does have 4 stolen bases. But a 43 WRC plus, he's been below replacement level when KRG is healthy and back from a brief rehab assignment. Anticipate that Escobar will get sent down to AAA. Chris Kuhn having a really nice year for us, 269 average, 13 homers and 58 ribbies. He's already stolen 17 bases after having 19 in the previous 2 entire seasons. 115 WRC plus, 1.4 WAR, DH/left fielder for us against left-handed pitching, having another good solid offensive year. Tom McNeil, the 23-year-old former 4th-round draft pick, has been a really big addition to the team for us as a left-handed hitter. He's been playing every day with the injury situation. It's not inconceivable once KR Jr. is back that he's only in the lineup against right-handed pitching. But McNeil hitting 284, 19 doubles, 3 triples, and 9 home runs. Scored 46 runs, drove in 39. He's put up a 129 WRC plus and a 2.0 WAR. A rare, relatively recent, relatively high draft pick who seems to be working out for us. Don't think he's ever going to be a superstar, but he is a versatile defensive outfielder with a bat that is more than respectable at the major league level. Decent speed, even though his base running instincts aren't great. He's fragile, but we've needed left-handed bats, and McNeil is finally one that we've developed in this organization. We've talked about the massive year that Mike Castro is having after a few years where he was in the 250s and 260s after starting his career as a guy who was a perennial contender to hit 300. Back to his old ways this year with a 305 batting average. Does a little bit of everything. He's scored 50 runs, driven in 44, 18 doubles, 5 triples, 11 home runs. He's walked 36 times, 19 out of 20 on the base paths. All adds up to an OPS over 900, 145 WRC plus, and that league-leading 4.2 WAR, even though his personality is not necessarily one of the more attractive ones on our team. Last but not least, Eric Mokeen, been our right fielder against right-handed pitching this year with the injury to Kevin Roberts Jr. 246 average with 8 homers and 30 ribbies. Basically been a league average offensive player. Does have a 1.4 WAR for us this year. So still useful. And Mokeen is a guy who's a legitimate major leaguer against right-handed pitching, perhaps not against left-handed pitching. He's set to make $7.5 million in arbitration next year. Certainly going to have an interesting decision to make with him, particularly with the emergence of Tom McNeil. Chris Kuhn is a guy who's also still arbitration eligible. The number for him at close to $13 million is going to be a lot more, but could certainly see a situation with some of the financial issues we anticipate heading into next off season that Mokeen may be a guy we end up moving on from. So I'd say overall, given the boring off season and the injuries, sitting here at 51-31 with the second best record in baseball, the best record in the National League, and a 4-game lead in the West is a good performance for our team. Nothing to complain about as far as that. When we think about the youth movement, some good and some bad. The good, Hirota and Salas looking like they're going to be legitimate pitchers for us for the future. And Tom McNeil has done a great job as an outfielder for us. Unfortunately, some of the other position players kind of proving that they're probably not the long-term answers for us. Luis Escobar and Mario Manriquez among them. Steve Wheats is a little bit younger, and we still think there's some upside there, but he also has not impressed in the opportunities that he's been given here in the first half of 2043. And with 200 episodes almost in the books, we will finish off with just a broader view of our team and our organization. Helton remains the all-time Rockies leader in games played and hits. Kevin Roberts Jr., if he stays healthy, could threaten both of those numbers. He has passed Helton to be the all-time leader in home runs. Hopefully he'll get his 400th this year when he's back and healthy. Leo Martinez already the franchise leader in both wins and strikeouts. Hopefully he will get his 200th win before this season is over. With Hirota and Salas off of the prospects list, you can see that our minor league system ranks 23rd overall, not particularly impressive. But we do have 3 prominent pitchers still among our top 100 prospects, the only 3 members of the Rockies among the top 100 prospects. Last year's second-round pick, Matthew Vance, recently earned a promotion to AAA, went 5-2 with a .415 earned run average in AA in the Eastern League in Hartford. Just pitched his first game in AAA where he allowed a couple of earned runs over 5 2/3 innings while striking out 7. Question how good his stuff is really going to be, but think his movement could be above average and average-ish control. Fragile physically, 22 years old. Don't think he's going to be a superstar, but still think he could be a useful back-of-the-rotation major league pitcher. Ernesto Menivar unfortunately had that torn labrum right at the end of spring training. He's going to miss the entire year, but very hopeful that the 21-year-old could be a big contributor for us down the line. Starting pitcher C.J. Coons was our second-round pick 2 years ago, and he has spent this entire year in high A ball as a 21-year-old. 8-3 record with a 3.31 ERA. Could certainly consider promoting him to AA before the end of this season. Take a quick look also at the 4 prospects we have who are rated between number 101 and 200. Left fielder Luis Vera, IAFA signing from a year ago, playing right now with our ACL team. The Secretary of Defense has hit over 500 in the DSL last year, over 500 in the ACL this year, as the dominance of young players and wacky statistics continue. 25 home runs and 131 runs batted in 49 games. Only 19 years old. But when the ACL season, where he's dominating, finishes up, he won't be going back to the Dominican Rookie League where he'd dominate again. We're going to send him to the California League as a 19-year-old in just a couple of weeks. And it's not inconceivable that he could be up in high A ball as a 19-year-old before the end of the year when we look at where we think his ratings are relative to those leagues. So I have a lot of hopes for him. Adrian McCallum, as we noted, holding his own as a major leaguer. He's made it onto the list at the age of 26 somehow as the number 180 prospect in baseball. Nils Mensch, who was up with us briefly, hit 227 in 22 at-bats, playing every day for us in AAA, hitting over 300 there. Versatile defensive switch-hitting infielder. The question is the growth of his bat. Still have some hope that he's going to be able to knock the ball out of the park on a regular basis, but it's definitely trending for him to be a below-average contact hitter, possibly with a below-average eye as well. And we mentioned Tomas Pena. He got to make his major league debut earlier this year when we had those injuries to the pitching staff. 2-0 with a 1 ERA over 18 innings pitched. The 23-year-old scouting discovery from 2036 was the final cut out of spring training this year. But despite the fact that he's put up a 6.39 ERA in AAA Albuquerque, that's still a win and a half above replacement. His SIERA is 3 runs better than his actual ERA. Would assume that 3.52 batting average will normalize, or that BABIP against him will normalize to something a bit more expected going forward. And certainly would anticipate that we could see Mr. Pena back in the majors as a September call-up or potentially earlier. So things are going well. We're expecting to get Kevin Roberts Jr. back in a matter of days. Next time around, we'll sim through those next 4 or 5 days and look at the options available for us in the first-year player draft. We'll also do a deep dive in that episode on some of the options that are available on the trade block. That'll be our last episode for a few days. I mentioned that these first couple weeks of March, I'm going to be relatively busy at work, traveling around this great country of ours. And so you'll have plenty of time when I do post the episode looking at the first-year player draft and some of our options in the trade market to share your ideas with me. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.